Okay, good evening. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the January 10th, 2022 Mason City Council meeting. I'm so glad to see everyone back after holidays. I hope everyone had a chance to visit with some friends and family if possible, and I know that COVID has been on the rampage, so I hope if you've had it, you are well now or you're recovering from it, and we wish everyone the best at home that's watching tonight. So I'm going to call this meeting to order, and we're going to start out with a roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Nelson.
Here.
Councilmember Bradburn.
Present.
Councilmember Hackey.
Here.
Councilmember Grossman.
Here.
Councilmember Stricula.
Here.
Mayor Spaeth.
Here. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask Chaplain Jerry Pelfrey to come forward and say a prayer tonight, and then we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would stand, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and Happy New Year for all of you. The last time I was here, I referenced one of our constitutional fathers. I thought it'd be very appropriate to quote, as we go into this prayer, one of our more recent presidents, President Obama, and I quote, "Our job is not to ask that God respond to our notion of truth. Our job is to be true to Him, His word, and His commandments." That's pretty good advice from a past president. Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed, sacred, holy is your name. Your kingdom come and your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We lift our city council before your throne of grace, asking that you give them wisdom, that you protect them and their families. We pray for our first responders and their families and the unique struggles that they face. This world is not short on hurting people, and we need as many servants out there to help. We pray for our veterans, the current military, for their families, especially those who are away from their loved ones. We pray for the city administration, the support staff. We pray for those who will be working on our highways throughout the winter months, that you protect them. Now help us all to demonstrate love and forgiveness, regardless of what we believe or choose not to believe. And we thank you for your love and for the forgiveness you offer. We give thanks in Jesus' name. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chaplain Jerry Pelfrey. We appreciate it very much. Okay, we'll go right into the minutes from the December 13th council meeting. I need a motion to approve those minutes, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Eric, we'll have the city manager's report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of items here, several events to be aware of. First of all, this Wednesday, January 12th at 11:30, the May Chamber is sponsoring a Meet Newly Elected Officials event, which I believe Mason will be represented at, as well as school districts, both Mason Kings and Deerfield Township. So that's an opportunity for council as well as the public. The Area Progress Council of Warren County is holding their business after-hours meeting Wednesday, January 26th from 5:30 to 8:30. If you're interested in attending, please let me know. The Community Center, as part of the city's mission of building a culture of wellness, is holding a Community Wellness Expo. That'll be on Saturday, January 29th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's a free event to the community, intended to promote overall lifestyle, healthy lifestyle. There will be exhibits, informational presentations from a variety of vendors from all sectors of health and wellness in the region to provide that to folks interested in participating. Similarly, the Lindner Center of Hope, one of our partners in the community, is hosting their first presentation as part of the 2022 Community Outreach Series. That will be on Wednesday, February 16th from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., again held at the Manor House. For information regarding this annual series of presentations, you can see them on at their webpage, lindnercenterofhope.org. Also, for residents and businesses benefit or awareness, the city is again picking up Christmas trees. We'll continue that throughout the month of January. Residents should place their trees at the curbside for pickup. If their trees are placed in bags, the city will not pick them up, but Rumpke will pick them up to be taken to a landfill. And then one item, not an event, but I did think it was worth making council aware of, or reemphasizing with council as well as the public. Grab my notes here. I'm not sure how many folks, but a good number read the Cincinnati Business Courier. Its intended audience is businesses, developers within the Cincinnati region. And each year, they do an article that looks at the top 20 development projects in the Cincinnati region that they anticipate having the most impact in the future. And as part of that, they feature the top 5 that they call the big game changers in the region. And city was gratified in that top 5 list. Throughout the whole Cincinnati region, the city of Mason had 2 of the top 5, number 3 and number 4 respectively. Together, those 2 projects mean to the Mason community over $300 million in new capital investment and an estimated 1,000 jobs, including both immediate and future projections for those. Those 2 projects are familiar with us, and I know the community is aware of them, but for sake of information, Mercy Health Hospital Campus was ranked number 3 in the region. That is a project that city's been working with actually for over 4 years to locate just the right site. There were some starts and stops and some pauses and breaks, but ultimately ended up securing that development at a site that I think everyone feels very good about. Ranked number 4 was the Western Row Mixed-Use Mason Office Park, and I think what everyone seems to know it by is the Dorothy Lane Anchor, was ranked the number 4 biggest game changer in the region. That was announced at the end of last year, and expect that it's taken over 5 years actually that we've been working on that project as a whole. Secured it ultimately at the end of last year. Similar to the other one, looking for the right opportunity, different starts, stops, retreats, advances, to find just the right mix of a partnership, as well as the city's level of partnership to come up with a very positive impact for especially Mason, but also the region. Just wanted to highlight both of those projects as they were highlighted in the Business Courier, as well as for council's benefit. I think they remind us maybe of a lesson that we understand in terms of economic development. Our strongest assets here come from relationships and take patience. Both of these did not occur in 1 year, 2 years. They were both 4+ years in the making. And I think the lessons I take from that and that we've learned in economic development here, you have to be tenacious, you have to be patient, and what the businesses value is a lot of consistency. And you need that consistency to sustain the type of patience to secure those projects when you're talking about 4 or 5 years. So certainly we're gratified to see that. I think council should be especially proud to see, and again, in the entire Cincinnati region, the top 5, 2 of them again are in the city of Mason. So. Congratulations. Last item, wanted to ask council, would like to add to the agenda. We have the boys cross country team and Coach Tom Rapp here. With council's consent, would like to ask the coach to come up and introduce the team. And you do have a resolution at your desk that if Coach Rapp does a good enough job on, maybe we'd agree to go ahead and add that resolution to the agenda and adopt it. Coach.
It's our privilege to be here this evening. It's my privilege to coach these young men and about 90 others on our boys cross-country team at Mason High School. They are a tremendously hard-working group. They do not care what the weather is. They're out there. You might have seen many of them out there even today running, preparing for the next season of track and field coming up. But we had an unprecedented season this year where we were undefeated. We've raced in some large invitationals, won all of those, and then when we got into the championship season, the conference championship with the GMC, the district regional, and the state championship, they just kept getting better and better. And it's my privilege to work with them. They are great students as well. The 7 that actually got to run in the state meet, all 7 of them were designated as academic All-Ohio, which means you have to run in the state meet and also carry a very high GPA. And so that discipline that they take into their athletics, they also take into their their academics and are fine citizens. So I could introduce them from where they're standing. Why don't you guys stand up? And from the far side over there, if you give away, when I take, you can take your mask off so we can see your smiling face for a minute there. That is Aiden Markets on the far end there. He is actually the GMC Greater Miami Conference Runner of the Year, as he was the champion of that race. And for most of this, almost the whole season, our top runner is considering college. He's a senior, considering college choices, and college coaches from around the area are really wanting his services. We could do that. Where should I have them stand? Across the front?
Facing the audience.
Facing the audience, okay. All right, thank you. Okay. There are several that couldn't be here tonight because they're involved in lots of other things. These are very well-rounded young men. Some of them are in music and other activities. But I was just, Aiden, you want to wave again? That was Aiden that I was talking about there. Next to him is Max Leal, who's a sophomore. And to be a sophomore and make varsity on our team, it tells you what kind of talent and ability that he has. Next is Brady Messer. Brady is a senior and was one of our captains. Definitely a key man in making sure that practices ran smoothly, and has also competed very well. Next to him is James Maraska. James is a junior, and we look forward to seeing him moving on up the ranks. All these guys on any other team in Ohio would be a scoring varsity athlete, but you're only allowed to run 7 in a championship race, and so we actually had of our top group 11 guys, and some of them, I tell them the good news, bad news. The bad news is you're on a team that's so good it's really hard to make the varsity. The good news is being on a team this good makes you better than if you were anywhere else. And so they continue to work towards that end. Next is Aiden Markets. He's the guy who kind of came from fairly far down in the ranks, continued to work hard, run, and wound up being one of our top guys at the state championship. Next to him is Isaac Schockleiter. Isaac is a junior, and Isaac won a big invitational this fall, and is one of our key guys. And then next to him is Braden Fetters, and Braden is also one of those guys that on any other team in Ohio would have been a scoring varsity guy, but here he was one of our alternates and kept the other guys honest in practice, and was certainly there on race day as well. I should also say that the city of Mason is a tremendous place to be a runner. I am blessed to be able to teach and coach these guys in a place where they can run safely. We have great sidewalks that are well maintained. The bike paths are tremendous, but more than anything else, if you know anything about cross country, we like to run in grass, mud, and dirt. And more mud and dirt, the better. And so to have Pine Hill Park and Corbin Nixon Park right outside our door is just an absolute blessing that I tell these guys all the time. You don't know how many schools would dream of having such a place to train, in addition to our other parks as well. And because of that, I constantly am encouraging our guys, and we take different times during the season where we take time out of practice to mulch the trails, to maintain the trails, and we work with the Parks Department here to make sure that our cross-country home right across the way here is well maintained, and that they appreciate what they have. We have, between the high school and the middle school boys and girls teams, there's probably 400 kids involved in that. And if you've ever been out there on an afternoon in the fall, you've probably seen that. We try to be as courteous as possible when you have that many kids over there. But it is a great place, and so we're thankful to the whole city of Mason for what they allow us to represent when we go beyond the city of Mason to represent it cross country. So thank you for the chance to share with these guys. They are tremendous. They are state champions, and they have worked hard to gain that. So.
Don't go away yet. You guys are, if you would, stay up there. But I want to say congratulations to you, Coach Rapp, and to all the team members. I love what you said about how well they do in school as well, because I was thinking about what it means to be on a team. And there's so many things that kids get from being in sports, especially team sports. And it's not, I was reading about how they actually do better in school, kids that are involved in sports and on a team sport. And also, you know, it builds confidence, it builds leadership, self-esteem, and they learn how to work as a group, work together. So I think it's very exciting, and I'm very proud, and I'm sure this whole council is very proud of their success. I think you may have mentioned this is the third state championship in the program's history.
Yes,
I think this
for
is
the boys,
correct.
yeah.
And I found this quote. I want to see if these young guys know who might have said this quote. It says, "Talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships." Do any of you guys know who might have said that? Any guesses? Michael Jordan said that. And that's very true. It's talent, individual talent wins games, but it's teamwork and intelligence that wins the championship. So congratulations to you guys. We really are proud of you. We do have a resolution. I think we need to pass that resolution first. Is that correct? Or, okay. I would like to ask council to add the motion, a motion to add resolution 2022-2 to the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
And all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. And I think we have a resolution to read, correct? And do we want to come down here and do this?
Okay.
Come down here with. Now, I'm going to apologize in advance if I mess up some of your names. Okay, this is congratulating the Mason High School boys cross-country team. Whereas the Mason High School boys cross-country team was undefeated in the 2021 season, the boys cross-country team also won several prestigious invitations. And whereas on October 16th, 2021, the Mason High School boys cross-country team made history by winning the Greater Miami Championship and having the first 5 runners to cross the finish line as Mason Comet runners. These race results gave Mason High School the first ever perfect score of 15 points in the GMC Championship. And whereas the Mason boys cross-country team won the district, regional, and then the Ohio State title on November 6, 2021, and whereas the boys cross-country team began in 1964 with Lee Carey as the first head coach, the 2021 seasoned coaches are Tim Pitcher for 16 years, Lucas Segraves, Zach Thompson, Sean Price, Steve Prescott, Tom Rapp. And whereas Tom Rapp was Greater Miami Championship Boys Cross-Country Coach of the Year, selected by his league coaching peers. Tom Rapp was also awarded the 2021 Ohio Association of Track and Cross Country Coaches Fred Daffler Award, which honors the most outstanding active coach in each of the 4 categories: boys track, boys cross country, girls track, and girls cross country. Congratulations. And whereas there were 7 runners that competed in the state meet: Aiden Amsoff, Alex, is it DeRusso? Okay. Like I said, I'm sorry if I'm going to say these names wrong. Max Lau, is that correct? Aiden Markets, okay. Keith Newberger, Isaac, is it Schlosslake? Thank you. Jerry Zhu, is that correct? Okay. Key alternates on the team were Colin Campbell, Braden Fetters, Brady Messer, and James, is it Marsky? Marsky, okay. And whereas team captain Aiden Amshoff was declared Greater Miami Conference Runner of the Year. Aiden and Alex DeRosso earned all Ohio honors. All 7 athletes who competed in the state championship race also earned academic all-Ohio honors. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mason, Ohio, 6 members thereto concurring, Section 1, that the Council of the City of Mason hereby congratulates the Mason High School boys cross-country team on the success of their 2021 cross-country season, past this 10th day of January 2022. That was a lot to say, but oh my gosh, you guys should be so proud of yourselves. That was so, I mean, this is just so tremendous and awesome. Congratulations so much. Thank you. really is so wonderful. Let's get all the council up here and get a picture.
Nope, you're done.
That really was tremendous. I mean, everything that they have been successful in doing. And I know we have a lot of teams like that in City School that are so successful. So I'm very excited for those guys. Yes?
You do need to actually adopt it.
Okay, we do need to go back and do that. Okay, I need a motion to, is it,
To allow for adoption after.
okay, to allow for adoption after the first reading.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And a motion to adopt.
Okay, and then a motion to adopt, please.
So moved.
Second.
Did anybody want to have any council discussion on it? Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think we're ready to move on to item 7, which is recognition of visitors. I don't think we had anybody signed up to speak. Is there anybody in the audience that wanted to speak today? Okay.
Good evening. My name's Mark Burrell. I live at 6370 Caddy's Way, Mason, Ohio. And I have something I'd like to read, which will take about 5 minutes. So I'm just checking to see if there's a time limit tonight.
No, I think we're good. We don't have a big number of people.
Great,
that want
thank
to
you.
speak. I do want to say to you, though, just so that you will know, we do have 2 ordinances tonight that are just up for a first reading, and there will be public hearing for that at the meeting in February. And I don't know if you're here to speak to any of those.
No, these are general comments.
Okay, thank you.
In December's meeting, I rose to comment on the sanctuary city vote that occurred that night. Many people have spoken on that and other topics over the past year. It's increasingly clear that the rift across America and Mason, Ohio, is growing. Why is that? Well, here's what I see. There are 2 competing worldviews informing political opinions on various policy issues. It seems like we ought to be able to find some common ground, but the difference in these worldviews is making this increasingly difficult. The first worldview is based on the Judeo-Christian ethic, where the very foundation of civil government is the moral law, summarized by the 10 Commandments. For a government to be legitimate, it must operate and pass laws that are in harmony with the moral law. To make this clear, the founders unanimously passed the Declaration of Independence, which pointed out that the King of England was violating these bedrock principles. The Declaration serves as our national founding covenant. It makes certain timeless claims to which all American citizens are called to embrace and defend, including this council. The Constitution is important, but it's simply our governing framework based on the principles of the Declaration. The American patriot who loves this country understands the vision expressed in the Declaration can only come from defending liberty and civil justice for all. This was the majority view of typical civil leaders in America up to the middle of the 20th century. The second worldview is progressive and based on a secular humanism. This worldview claims the founding was based on Enlightenment principles versus the Bible. To advance this progressive agenda, it was important to redefine and marginalize the role of the church. One of the main arguments made in the recent sanctuary city debate was that we must keep religion out of politics because of separation of church and state. As I mentioned last month, there is no such legal principle in any of our founding documents prohibiting the views of the church from being expressed in the business of governing. None. In fact, it was the view of the colonial church that informed the principles expressed in the Declaration and the Constitution. The modern view of separation of church and state comes from a Supreme Court decision in 1947 in the case of Everson versus Board of Education. Prior to this, during the first 150 years of our republic, the court consistently affirmed the reality and importance of biblical principles for governing, including the moral law as the legal standard. Maybe next time I'll read through some of those as an example. But this changed in 47 with Justice Hugo Black when he wrote, "The First Amendment was intended to erect a wall of separation between church and state, and that wall must be kept high and impregnable." Black was referring to a private letter from Jefferson to the Danbury Baptist Association, which was concerned the federal government might meddle with a religious institution. Jefferson's view was that the government was prohibited from intermeddling with any church, not that Christians were prohibited from bringing their religion to the public square. That idea would have been nonsensical to the founders because America was founded squarely on biblical principles. In fact, during Jefferson's term as president, they started holding church services in the Capitol building every week, which he attended. This was in keeping with the Northwest Ordinance passed in '87 by the Continental Congress and in '89 by the new Federal Congress, which said that religion and morality shall forever be encouraged. This ruling declaring separation of church and state has been called out by many justices. Justice Rehnquist stated that the wall of separation between church and state is a metaphor based on bad history, which has proved useless as a guide for judging. It should be abandoned. By 1963, after 350 years of precedents, prayer and Bible reading in public schools were suddenly declared unconstitutional. Most public displays of the Ten Commandments have been removed since then, and we now have several generations who do not understand the importance of the moral law as the standard for all lawmaking and to have law and order, which extends to the sanctity of life issue. This begs the question, does it really matter that we have these two worldviews? Can't we just get along and work things out? Why can't we reach a compromise? For most of my adult life, this was a debatable question. But in the last decade, we're seeing the results of a wholesale rejection of the moral law in governing, and that is chaos. The events in Portland, Seattle, Minneapolis, New York, and other places, where this progressive ideology has been allowed to take root and flourish for decades, prove that ongoing compromise eventually does lead to lawlessness. The COVID mandates are another glaring example of a rejection of America's founding principles. Through their actions, our civil leaders are showing they do not believe America should have control over their body, which the Nuremberg Medical Code was intended to protect once and for all going forward. If this progressive principle is true, then no right is truly sacred, and that would include your property. This is why American patriots are digging in. We see where this progressive ideology is going. It's dividing our nation. I encourage City Council to continue to consider and to seek to understand the true scope of your responsibility under our national founding covenant and the long-term implications of adopting progressive policies. Thank you for letting me share this tonight.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who would like to come up this evening? You can go to the podium, please. State your name and address.
Hello, I'm Susie Lurchman, 7343 Red Oak Court, Mason, 45040. I would just like to say that religion does not equal morality. They are different things. And I'm rather happy that our founding fathers were progressive enough to break from the parent stem and become the first country for democracy. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Al Lurtzman, 7343 Red Oak Court, Mason, Ohio. I'm not going to say anything about that topic. A week ago, I did my 163rd platelet donation. When I was there that day, Hawksworth North, over on Tilesville Road, had 2 platelet donations. They needed at least 8 at that center every day. There's a critical shortage of platelet and blood donors. Part of that is driven by COVID, which is causing a lot of people not to be able to donate for periods of time. A lot of it is the holidays. But I would encourage everybody, if you're able, to go out and donate, whether it's whole blood, platelets, get out there and help your fellow man.
Where did you say you did it at? Where was it?
I did it at the Hawksworth North Center, which is off of Tylersville Road.
Okay.
It's actually on, I believe it's Kingsland Drive, I believe is the address. But if you go to their website, you can see all the centers, and you can actually schedule.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else like to speak? Okay, we'll move on. We're to item number 8, which is Resolution 2022-1. I need a motion to read by title only, please.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, Jeff?
Requesting the county auditor to make tax advances during the year 2022 pursuant to Section 321.34 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Eric?
Yes, this has become an annual housekeeping measure. To put very simply, Warren County collects taxes on behalf of the city of Mason. They are able to hold on to those until a final calculation is made of what is due to Mason. However, the state does allow local jurisdictions such as Mason to petition the county to release those funds sooner until a final calculation can be done. What this does by petitioning them, it allows better cash flow for the city as well as the interest earnings from those dollars to accrue to the city of Mason. What Resolution 2022-1 does is it authorizes the finance director to make that request for the tax payments prior to the settlement date required.
All right, thank you. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading, please.
So moved.
All in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Okay, a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second?
Any council discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hackey?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Okay, item 9, we are on Ordinance 2022-1. It's a first reading. I need a motion to read by title only.
So moved?
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Jeff?
Approval of a revised concept planned unit development plan for the Western Row PUD located at Western Row Road and Mason Montgomery Road, Western Row PUD.
Eric?
Yes, on the next 3 ordinances that are all first readings, we'd like to ask for public hearings to be set for February 14th.
Okay, thank you. We're to item number 10, Ordinance 2022-2, first reading. A motion to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Jeff?
Amending the zoning code and zoning map of the city of Mason, Ohio to provide for the rezoning of approximately 13.31 acres from R1 single-family residential to R3 single-family residential located at 6369, 6429, and 6465 Mason Road, Ainsley subdivision.
Again, Eric?
February 14th, public hearing.
All right, thank you. Item number 11, ordinance 2022-3, first reading, motion to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, Jeff?
Amending the zoning code and zoning map of the city of Mason, Ohio to provide for the rezoning of approximately 5.81 acres from I-1 light industrial to B3 road service commercial located at 4230 US 42 rezoning.
Okay, again, Eric?
Maybe on Valentine's Day, public hearing, February 14th.
All right, thank you. Item 12, ordinance 2022-4. I need a motion to read by title only, please.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Okay, Jeff?
Accepting the public improvements for the reserves of Carmel Phase 4D and releasing the performance bond.
Kurt?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Section 4D is located in the Reserves of Carmel subdivision. It's off of Mason Morrow Mill Grove Road, Stone Ridge Drive, and it consists of these lots here on Highland Green Drive. That has been inspected by city crews as well as Greater Cincinnati Waterworks and would become the city's responsibility upon acceptance of this ordinance. Staff recommends accepting the public improvements contingent on the standard one-year maintenance bond as well as a performance bond for the remaining sidewalk and street trees for lots that have not yet been completed. Ordinance 2022-4 is recommended for adoption.
All right, thank you. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Okay, motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion?
Mayor, if I,
Yes.
to Kurt, is that the last phase of Carmel?
Yes, sorry, I should have mentioned that. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey?
Yes.
Okay, we are on item 13, ordinance 2022-5. I need a motion to read by title only, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Jeff?
Approval of the replats for the WRLD subdivision, Section 1 and 2.
Kurt?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. These two plats both went to the January 4th Planning Commission meeting. The one on the left is the first plat. That'll basically replat all of these existing lots that are along West Monroe Road and Mason Montgomery Road into one lot. And then the second plat is to break that one lot into lots 2 and 3. So initially it's one big lot called Lot 1 that's almost 70 acres, and then the second plat breaks it into a 42-acre and 27-acre parcel that could be that would allow for the sale of Lot 3 eventually to the city of Mason. With that, ordinance 2022-5 is recommended for adoption.
All right, thank you. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay. A motion to adopt?
So moved?
Did we have a second? Okay. Any council discussion? Yes.
Mayor, if I may again. Kurt, is there like one single-family residence that still remains?
Yeah, this lot actually is included in this replat. It didn't get colored up, but I believe it is. Well, it's being purchased by the developer. I
Okay.
should say. So it'll be taken care of in the future replat of Lot 2. So
Thank you.
It's not part of this replat, sorry.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, let's have roll call.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Okay, item 14, ordinance 2022-6. I need a motion to read by title only, please.
So moved.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, Jeff?
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a service agreement in the amount of $8,000 with the Mason Historical Society.
Okay, Eric, is this one going to be you since we have Jennifer
Yes.
out? Okay.
Yes. In fact, I'd like to kind of group the next 4 together and then customize them a bit. They all have to do with service agreements. And Just by way of background for all of council, for several years, the city did make some contributions to different groups. And that was considered by the Finance Committee, but I'd say about 15 years ago, council set a policy to try and organize how those contributions were made, and that put in place a matching program where the city would not contribute more than $8,000 to one group, to any one group, and to hit that maximum of $8,000, a group would have to contribute or have other contributions 2 to 1. For every dollar the city provided, they would raise 2 from other sources. More recently, council has moved towards what we call a service agreement approach. Instead of considering those purely contributions to different groups, it was intended that the funds the city would provide would be in exchange for services that would be provided to the city, and that we would be able to articulate and judge the merits of what that exchange would be. And that is now the system we operate. On these, it typically still has that $8,000 cap, and that 2-for-1 match is included in them. 2 groups, and that's what's before you in Ordinance 2022-6 and Ordinance 2022-7, are kind of long-standing recipients and partners of the city. First is the Mason Historical Society, and the city has been providing support annually since at least the early 90s to the Historical Society. 2020 was the first year that they transitioned to the service agreement model. In your packet, it itemizes several of the items in that service agreement. I would just highlight, I think one of the more successful pieces of that is we partner on membership, and the Historical Society provides to the city a free for every premier member of the community center. The Historical Society provides a free 1-year membership to the Historical Society. That allows us both to kind of share and market to memberships. And then several other items, participating in city events is standard, helping to market city assets. But a new idea in here, included in this year's service agreement, is we've each made a commitment to sit down to discuss and collaborate on a variety of programming type of ideas on how we'd be able to mutually promote the downtown business corridor. Obviously, the Historical Society sits in that area and has an interest in that, as well as the City of Mason. So that may yet bear some fruit. The second longer-standing partnership is with the Warren County Humane Association. The Humane Association provides a variety of services, has for a long period of time, that directly benefit the city. Similarly, they have some shared programming ideas and marketing ideas. Perhaps most significantly are 2. They provide a reference and a resource for the city that we receive regular inquiries on, helping local folks find lost pets. That's not something that the city ourselves does well on, but we do get those requests, and so we're able to refer those to them. They also provide a referral resource for the city for resident concerns with stray animals, animal welfare, pet adoption, et cetera. So those long-standing partnership with both of those are encompassed in Ordinance 2022-6 and Ordinance 2022-7. Maybe I'll pause there if you want to address each of those, then move on to the next 2.
Okay, we can do that. Let's see, where am I here? Okay, so we will be addressing first Ordinance 14, which is Ordinance 2022-6. I need a motion to read by title only.
So moved.
I think we did that
Second.
second. Okay. And then now I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Okay, a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, is there any council discussion? And this is with the Mason Historical Society. Any council discussion? Okay. Can we have roll call, please?
Mayor Spaeth,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula.
Yes.
Okay, then item 15 is ordinance 2022-7, a motion to read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Okay, Jeff.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a service agreement in the amount of $8,000 with the Warren County Humane Association.
Okay, a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, a motion to adopt?
So moved?
Second.
Okay, any council discussion in regard to the Warren County Humane Association? Okay, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Mayor Spade.
Yes. Okay, so now we're on item 16, which is ordinance 2022-8, and I need the motion to read by title only, please.
So moved.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Jeff?
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a service agreement in the amount of $8,000 with Safe on Main.
Okay, Eric?
Excuse me. Similar to the others, same principle here of a service agreement, $8,000 limit, 2-for-1 match service agreement. The Abuse and Rape Crisis Shelter, ARCS, is a relatively new partner to this program. And actually, they are in the process, I think have formally changed their name, but still doing the marketing, so that their new name is SAFE, which stands for Stopping Abuse for Everyone on Main. So SAFE on Main. Their mission is to provide resources, including safety, recovery, empowerment to survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. They also provide prevention education throughout communities they serve. Their first service agreement was in 2019. Some of the highlights of that service agreement, and these are a little different than the previous two, as these focus a lot on first responders. They serve as a resource, primarily to first responders, but throughout the city, as it relates to intervention services, prevention education related to family violence, sexual assault, as well as human trafficking. They work closely with the city's campus safety team to provide prevention education and training within the school system and on the campus here. They are also a referral resource for first responders when they, as well as the campus safety team, when they may be involved in issues dealing with those type of topics. It is helpful for those first responders to have folks trained and with the type of resources to respond to that. Also in this one, there is a $1,000 of that city support is basically in kind. It's allocated to allow SAFE on Main now to access community center passes or programming specifically targeted to youth that may be directly impacted by domestic violence or family issues to help with SAFE's mission to provide some empowerment and some self-esteem and some support for those families. Those are some of the highlights, as well as some of the other items we discussed as far as joint program participation in community events and city-sponsored events. This is recommended for adoption.
Okay, thank you, Eric. I need the motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Okay, a motion to adopt.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any council discussion? Okay, and I just to be transparent with our audience, I need to let people know when my term ended in 2019, I joined the Board of Trustees for this particular nonprofit group, and I still serve on that Board of Trustees, so I will be abstaining from this vote. I just want to let everyone knowing that. Does anybody else have anything they want to add? Okay, so let's have roll call.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Mayor Spade,
Abstain.
Vice Mayor Nelson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we're going on to ordinance 17, which is ordinance 2022-9, and I need a motion to read by title only.
So moved.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, Jeff?
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a service agreement in the amount of $8,000 with Women Walking West.
Okay, Eric?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, same basic service agreement, $8,000 limit here. Women Walking West is also a more recent partner with the City of Mason. They have a little different model here than the other groups, and I should have mentioned the service agreement. Implicit in that is some ability to be flexible and creative, trying to put together those service agreements. That's included in here. Women Walking West has a mission to remove educational barriers facing foreign-born adult women by creating learning communities where the women can achieve education needs. So this is very much focused on foreign-born female and education opportunities. They also do a mentor program to help those female students acclimate to differences in American culture. They have, to date, 17 mentees that reside in the city of Mason and 20 mentors who are Mason residents providing this. The service agreement includes a couple of items similar to the others that we mentioned as far as marketing, programming, participating in events, as well as some attempts to do some training specifically for some of our staff that encounter in a customer service role, folks from other cultures or foreign-born, how to better engage with them. Also similar to Safe on Main, $1,000 of that city support is expressed in kind, allocated towards memberships for the mentees at the community center to help them acclimate. Walking West also promotes the social cultural benefits of the community center. And it may be timely here to mention we, as part of that flexibility, that can also include the golf course. The intent there is to provide access through in-kind services where some of the amenities we have also support the mission of the groups that we're partnered with, as well as provides opportunities to spread that wellness message. Women Walking West is more focused on the mentor program as well as building assets towards providing education, specifically college credit, for these women. So their mission is pretty focused on putting these women on a track to achieve educational goals. I think that's all I have. Ordinance 2022-9 authorizes a service agreement with Women Walking West.
All right, thank you, Eric. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes?
Okay, is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, is there any council discussion?
Mayor,
Yes.
I'm requesting that this be, if we can hold the vote on this today until the Finance Committee can re-review it. I know it's a new Finance Committee. I've looked at the financials in the past, and there have been some issues with how much money is being spent on the women. And I just want to make sure that they're kind of still meeting some of those qualifications that we require. I pulled the latest tax return, and the ratio was really low. And I'm not sure, it's an older tax return, it's from 2019. You're not required to file the 2020 until November, and then it takes a while to get that information. But I would like the Finance Committee to review this, to review the 2021 financial statements, and I would like a copy of those as well. Just before we vote on it, they have a different financial model. That's important that the new Finance Committee understands that model and that it's meeting the requirements that we need. I just want to make sure that the women in this program are getting as much money possible from the money that the city gives to the organization. So I'm just requesting that we,
Making a motion
yes,
to,
to table this ordinance until the Finance Committee can review it.
okay, is there, do I need a second? Is that,
Can I just ask one question? I didn't hear completely. You'd like to request the 2021 financial statements for the Finance Committee's review?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
so we need a second, right?
Yes.
Does anyone want to second that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Do we need council discussion on that motion? Do we want council discussion on that motion? Okay,
Mayor?
yes.
I'm just curious, would you be holding this organization to a different standard than other organizations that we've just voted on, since the Finance Committee hasn't looked at the financial statements on the others? Could we run into a problem with that? And we've already voted on the other ones, but since they all provide such unique services, and I deeply admire them all, actually, are we changing the rules somehow inadvertently with just tabling the one?
Mayor?
I mean, I don't mind, but
Yes, yes.
So when I was on the Finance Committee, we've actually had all of these organizations before come forward while I was on the chair. And this particular organization just has a different financial model, and I think that the financials need to be reviewed again, because I'm not quite sure that the last Finance Committee understood the differences. I'm not sure if they really reviewed the financials, understand the financials. This has been an issue in the past, and I just want to make sure, it's a great organization, we're not saying it isn't, but I just want to make sure that some of the questions that have been in the prior finance meetings are being addressed and are being vetted before we go ahead and just distribute money out.
I do know in our packets, there was a statement made, I think, to the effect of because of COVID, they were having some issues maybe following through with the service agreement. Did I read that correctly? So I mean, I personally don't have a problem with the Finance Committee taking a look at that again, so we just make sure that everything is good. I don't know that we're holding it to a different standard. I don't think I don't think it would harm for the Finance Committee to look at that and report back to us. I mean, I'd like to know what they're not being able to comply with the service agreement, because we are expecting all the programs to do that, I believe, to be able to comply with their service agreement. And I know we've come under a lot of scrutiny because of these kinds of contributions. So I think it probably would be a good idea to look at it. You look like you want to say something.
You keep asking different questions. A couple of responses. I think to some degree, many of the service agreements since COVID-19, some of our ambitions have just not been able to be realized, sometimes because of limitations on the group and sometimes limitations on us. When the community centers closed, it was just not feasible for some of the ambitions we had pre-COVID to utilize the services. So I think that cuts both ways on to different degrees on all of the partnerships and to a lot of what the state's done, frankly. To Councilmember Nelson's questions, it is true. Often when the Finance Committee is reviewing the budget, it is a discussion point for all of the groups at different times, and sometimes, depending on the comfort level, we'll skip a year to ask them to come in, meet with the Finance Committee. I think that they all have at some point or another had financial statements that were distributed to the committee, had questions asked on those. It is also true that the Women Walking West they have some different, their financial model is different in terms of how they use the dollars in direct services versus building balances. And those are some consistent questions that have been asked from them since those partnerships started. So I think there's some consistency here, and with a new Finance Committee, it may be timely to have, and all the groups know, the Finance Committee recommends inclusion in the budget. It is at this point that Council actually makes the authorization. There's ample precedent for treating them each specifically, or each individually.
Councilmember Stricula, you're the chair now of the Finance Committee. Do you have any comment to make?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind if it makes everybody more comfortable taking a look at it and reviewing it and having a committee meeting and sitting down, making a recommendation from there. So I don't have a problem with that at all.
If this is what we're going to do, I hope for it to be done as soon as possible. I don't want this to be delayed too long.
Yeah. Yeah, we can probably coordinate. I mean, I'll go with Eric tomorrow and try to coordinate some time with the other two members.
I think the only cause for delay would be in the financial statements. I don't want to presume that.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Yeah. Yes.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I wasn't quite finished when Councilmember
Okay.
Nelson took the floor, but I just wanted to double check. I assume that each of these organizations in ordinances 6 through 9 met the basic standard criteria of the 2-to-1 match and all that, and staff verified that. I don't think we discussed these 4 charities in Finance Committee in the previous 2 years because of most likely COVID. So I was surprised to see these on the agenda already. So it wasn't that anybody intentionally tried to skip a step, and I'm sure in missing a Finance Committee discussion, things just got really discombobulated in 2020. So when they meet, I'm assuming staff's already vetted the the normal criteria. And now I'm learning for the first time there's a different financial model for this one. So I guess what I would ask is I'm okay with tabling. We're verifying that these meet the standard criteria, all of these organizations, that even the ones we voted on, correct?
Yeah, the standard criteria as far as the 2-to-1 match and $8,000 limit, they have all complied with that. I'm trying to hesitate because I think one of them may not have didn't reach the top of the $8,000.
Okay.
They still complied because that's just the top limit, and so maybe they only submit 15,000, so they only receive 7,500 or.
Okay.
But by and large, they've all met that. The service agreements, by their nature, are kind of aspirational and allow some creativity. And yes, the last 2 years, to varying degrees, have made it difficult for both sides to explicitly meet all those terms. But part of that is a spirit of cooperation and partnership, which has been maintained. I think the different financial model is more, and the past two, every year in the Finance Committee, it is a kind of a decision point if you want to continue that level of financing, which is then recommended to all of council. The Finance Committee doesn't vote, doesn't make a final authorization, and they haven't met with them the last 2 years. And some of them probably haven't met for several years because the comfort level's there. The two last groups, which include SAFE and Women Walking West, are relatively newer to it, so there have been more meetings, more discussion, and they do work. When I say financial model, that has nothing to do with comporting with the city's standards. It's more what their financial goals are. For simply put, needing operational funds to provide services or trying to build balances to kind of build an endowment to fund in the future. It's the basic difference.
Eric, I'm glad you brought that point up to the audience about the 2-to-1 match, because I don't think a lot of people realize, even though we're authorizing 8,000, if they cannot make that 2-to-1 match, they would not necessarily get the full 8,000, like you said. If they only raise 7,500, then they're only going to get 7,500 from the city of Mason. And I think that's important to note. So I appreciate you saying that. I think we've had a first and a second on this, correct? Is there any other comment before we have roll call? Okay, let's have roll call.
Councilmember Hackey,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn.
Yes.
Okay, we're up to item 18, ordinance 2022-10, motion to read by title only.
So moved?
Any second? Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Jeff?
Affirming the appointment of an interim city prosecutor and establishing the compensation for prosecution services for the period beginning January 1, 2022 and ending March 31, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Eric?
Very quickly, this is largely a housekeeping measure since in early December, the city's prosecutor of over 12 years resigned effective the end of December to take another opportunity, very attractive opportunity for her. But that left the city with needing to quickly identify a prosecutor. Per the city's charter, the law director is responsible for performing or securing prosecuting services. Fortunately, Jeff Forbes was responsive in making sure there was someone to take care of those duties before end of year. Max Kinman is with a Mason-based firm, AWK Legal. We're able to quickly work with him. He had the benefits of being recommended by the previous prosecutor, being familiar with day-to-day court operations, as well as having a familiarity, comfort level with police, and was eager to take on the work. Jeff was able to negotiate a discount, at least an interim discount, to give us a 3-month solution. The intention during those 3 months on both sides is to kind of measure the caseload, revisit how the arrangement works, with an intent towards renegotiating that on terms that are responsive to both for ongoing prosecuting services. So that's where we're at. He's begun work as of January 1st, and what this does is it affirms the situation that was put in place to fill that gap. We will need to come back if not sooner, within the 3 months to make further arrangements.
Okay, thank you, Eric. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion? Yes.
Mayor, thank you so much. I have a couple questions for staff. Do council members have any participation in the selection of this interim prosecutor whatsoever? Or was this all handled by our law director and city manager?
There was no participation from council in this.
Okay.
You're participating right now by affirming the decision.
Okay, okay.
We really hope you do, because he started work and we need him to
Okay.
stay.
Okay, that's all good. I just wanted to, just to ask that question so the public understands. This was solely selected, this individual, who I've never met, was solely selected by our staff and law director. So we're just voting to affirm the research and negotiation process that they did. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey?
Yes.
Okay, item 19, ordinance 2022-11, motion to read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, Jeff?
Authorizing the city manager to establish 5 additional full-time positions in the Parks and Recreation Department and establishing compensation for said positions.
And is this going to be you, Eric? Is that, okay, thank you.
Sorry. But I would like to combine the next 2 ordinances. Both deal with budget items and staffing and have similar explanations. There are 2 items here. Maybe begin with the community center. I think council as well as the community is well aware of the growing notoriety of the amenities the city has. In terms of recreation, the community center certainly has raised our profile over the last 20 years, and more specifically over the last 10 years. The new aquatic center, and with the soon-to-open competition pool, there is a growing need for not only programming time and maintenance time, but also business time to make sure that those amenities are run as financially growth forward as possible. And that is a large measure, although not entirely, for the first batch of staffing recommendations. We need sorry, I need Jennifer here because my throat's starting to go dry with all of these. In the Parks Department, there's both the need for additional programming, which would be the full-time program supervisor. The intention of that is, and that is a kind of a first effort, I fully anticipate as we get our legs under us, as we identify revenue opportunities, additional staffing will be needed there specifically to the competition pool. As we put ourselves in a position to be hosting meets, renting the space out, we will need to be staffing that so we can capture as much revenue as possible. That's the intention behind that. The intention, and this is somewhat delayed, are 2 coaching positions. We had discussed these actually on the budget prior to COVID, and then with the closure of some of those amenities, reduced participation, the addition of one of those coaching positions was delayed. With the expansion, with the aquatic center providing much more time, and the growth of the manta rays, which is anticipated and is needed to meet some of the financial performance that were put in place, additional full-time coaching time will be necessary to gather the revenues from additional students in the manta rays. There's certainly a demand to join the manta rays that we have not been able to meet in the past because it's such a successful program. So this is an intent both to catch up as well as put ourselves in a position for the future. The 2 full-time customer service positions are also overdue, but a little bit different need there. Those are meant to more directly impact staffing of the community center as well as the aquatic center. We have relied on part-time staffing for really the chunk of customer service hours in both facilities and had been struggling to keep that part-time program going. It began to create both overtime issues as well as staffing gaps because vacancies, trying to cover those vacancies. The last 2 years, it has become nearly impossible to access the type of part-time hours needed. That is beginning to show both in terms of morale, customer service, as well as revenue opportunities. The community center also had reduced programming during COVID. We are still on a path to recovery as we kind of try and reach our pre-COVID revenue levels. The real intent here with those two positions is to convert what had been hours of part-time staffing into full-time positions. We do have more success with the workforce that is interested in that by virtue of benefits to fill full-time. By themselves, they are more expensive than part-time staffing, but when you consider overtime, gaps of coverage, and gaining consistency, I think moving to full-time, at least to that point, will help the business model. So that's the rationale for those. That leads me into the fire department, which is a similar rationale in terms of the tension between part-time and full-time staffing, but this one also builds on what we have been looking at for a couple of years and experiment for the last two with what council's familiar with, staffing a third medic. We have staffed that just part of the time. We've staffed it with part-time hours or hours that we could hobble together. And the intent there was to test if having a third medic on duty could reduce response times. And to that extent, I think the test has proven quite a success. It has also dealt with an expansion of calls while also lowering our reliance on mutual aid. Lowering our reliance on mutual aid sounds like maybe not a good thing, except to the extent that is directly related to response times. By its nature, if you're relying on mutual aid, that means they are taking longer to get there, longer to get to the hospital overall. We were able to find by testing the third medic program for the last 2 years that it did reduce call times, most directly measurable. In the past, Deerfield had responded to 2 calls in Mason on mutual aid for every 1 call that Mason handled in Deerfield. During the pilot program, that ratio adjusted to 1 for 1. And like I said, that directly relates into improved level of service, improved response times for Mason residents. With the addition of 4 full-time positions in fire, it allowed that third medic, that third ambulance to be staffed 24/7, 365 days a year. We also, while it does increase the personnel, it's anticipated that by using full-time, it will, and having more depth there, it'll reduce our reliance on overtime expense. So it is a little bit of a spend this to get more consistency and pull down some of your other expenses. All of these are recommended. They were discussed with the Finance Committee, and actually almost all of them to some extent have been in discussion and building up for 2 to 3 years. Both ordinances are recommended.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Item 20, ordinance 2022-12, a motion to read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Jeff?
Establishing the Department of Fire and restructuring the City of Mason Fire Department, determining compensation, and creating 4 additional full-time paramedic firefighter positions in the City of Mason Fire Department, repealing ordinance number 2018-18 and declaring an emergency.
Okay, I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
A motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Spaeth,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Item 21, ordinance 2022-13, motion to read by title only.
So moved.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Jeff?
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Buckeye Power Sales in an amount not to exceed $185,000 to upgrade a Kohler switchgear for the primary 1,600 kilowatt standby generator at the water reclamation plant.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Kurt?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. What this ordinance really is our utility staff planning ahead because the emergency power is critical to the operation of the plant out there. The existing equipment is original to the plant when it started operation in 2006, and this equipment that is being proposed to be upgraded is obsolete and no longer supported. And what it does is it operates switchgear that is essentially like giant breakers that you'd find in your house, but instead of just flipping the breaker off, these breakers are 380 pounds apiece, and there's dozens of them. That it has timers switched in, so instead of being a hard switch, it slowly switches power over when the Duke Energy power stops. And then when Duke Energy power resumes, it switches back over onto the grid. So it does that while maintaining our equipment so that we don't have damage to our equipment that runs all the process out there, and is, like I said, critical to the operation. It is proprietary, so Kohler is the only one that could supply this controls to our existing generator. And the cost estimate was $185,000, which would be funded out of the budget for the water reclamation plant. Every year we have a budget for maintenance and replacement of equipment like this. So with that, ordinance 2022-13 is recommended for adoption. I'll answer any questions that you have.
All right, thank you. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion? Okay, roll call.
Vice Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth.
Yes. Item 22, ordinance 2022-14, a motion to read by title only, please.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Jeff?
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with PCI Services in an amount not to exceed $250,000 for the replacement of variable air volume, or VAV, boxes throughout the municipal center.
Okay, and I believe, is it Eric? Or is it? Oh, it's Kurt. I'm sorry. Okay. I misunderstood. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. This is also related to the age of this facility. We've gone many years since fall of 2002, we got into this facility and not had to do a lot of repairs. The VAV boxes that Jeff described, there's about 100 of them throughout the building. It includes areas where we have some partners in the building, as well as the court area. And what they do is they're kind of the last box that the air goes through before it goes into the space. And so it has both an actuator that controls a damper, as well as a hot water valve where it opens up hot water and heats the air before it comes out into the space if it's needed to be heated during the wintertime. We have about 30% or 30 of the boxes throughout the building that we have to actually pop a ceiling tile, go up there with a wrench, and physically open or close those actuators because they don't operate any longer. They're stripped. There's gears. The way that those were made have stripped out. In addition, the software that controls that is no longer supported. It's a proprietary trained software. So Process Construction, Inc., or PCI, has come up with a replacement that they think would help us out. It would be a retrofit that will go into each of the VAV boxes, so we don't have to physically take that duct box out of the ceiling. They can retrofit it while it's up there. And then also the new box would interface with a newer software that would be able to be controlled through the web and be much easier for staff to control the flow throughout the building and be more efficient and cost-effective to run the system. So with that, our ordinance is for $250,000 to do that retrofit, and ordinance 2022-14 is recommended for adoption, and I'll answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you, Kurt. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Any council discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Okay, item 23, ordinance 2022-15, motion to read by title only.
So moved.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, Jeff?
An ordinance accepting the lowest and best bid for the US 42 Roundabouts project from Sunesis Construction Company and authorizing the city manager to execute contract documents.
Kurt?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a project that would take two stop-controlled intersections. What this is showing is US 42 kind of going bottom left to the upper right, that's 42, and Bethany Road where it comes in at a pretty hard angle and there's a stop sign at that intersection. And then the other intersection is Mason Morrow Millgrove Road and US 42. Both are proposed to be changed from a stop-controlled to roundabout. The project includes widening about 800 feet between the two roundabouts. There are a couple curb cuts in that section of roadway, so that left turn lane will provide for both good flow of traffic as well as safe turning in and out of those. These roundabouts are designed for truck traffic, and the project also includes a bike path that will connect over from 741, comes along the north side of US 42, and then ties into the path at the sports park. So with the path that was recently completed, tying into Lebanon, Countryside Y, this is one of the last pieces that will actually tie the rest of Mason into the Little Miami Trail. With the 741 projects that are ongoing as well, there's a couple miles of bike path that are going along 741, so this would be a nice connection into that. This project is needed if you've been out there. Even non-peak hours of the day, there's significant traffic on 42, Mason Morrow, Millgrove, and Bethany throughout that corridor. So we think this project will reduce, if not eliminate, those backups and greatly improve the safety. We did get 5 bids for the project. Sunesis Construction was the low bidder, and they actually are the ones that are constructing the two phases of 741 right now, where the bridge widening is by Spyglass all the way up north to Avalon Trail. So we're familiar with Sunesis. They are ODOT approved contractor. The second, I'd like to talk about 15, 16, and 17. I forgot to mention that if I could. The next ordinance is for a sanitary sewer project. This one, and my exhibit here doesn't show the sanitary sewer, but it essentially goes from up the upper right-hand corner down through the middle of the roundabout at Mason Morrow Millgrove Road. So what we did is bid that out as a separate project, but in coordination with the roundabout. So the roundabout contractor, if like this instance that happened, the low bidder was not the same on both projects. Both contractors are aware of the other project and have to coordinate with each other on the work. The sanitary sewer project has an interim completion date so that the portion of the sewer that goes through the roundabout construction area will be done in time to not hold up the construction of the roundabout. That project is, we got six bidders for the sewer project. Stauffer Site Services was a low bidder on that, and they have also done projects in Mason and are a local contractor that we're familiar with. This sanitary sewer is going to really be for the future area out of the Mason R&D Park, where we can, instead of having, we've identified years ago that we need another lift station out to the northeast portion of the city there. This will keep that from being pumped to the Willowbrook lift station and then pumped to the plant. By putting this gravity sewer in, we can pump to this gravity sewer that'll go right to the trunk sewer that takes to the plant. So while it is $1 million, long-term it has a greater impact because they're not having to move that sewage 2 times. So the final ordinance is On this portion of the roundabout by Mason Morrow Mill Grove Road, there's 3 poles here that are in private easements just outside the existing right-of-way. So where a normal road project, we would acquire right-of-way and ask Duke Energy to move their poles back. This is an instance where we have to pay to move those poles because they're not in the existing right-of-way. So the third ordinance is not to exceed $80,000 for Duke Energy to relocate those 3 poles, transmission poles, on the north side of US 42 near the Mason Morrow Mill Grove intersection. So with that, ordinance 2022-15, 16, and 17 are recommended for adoption. And I should add too, I'm sorry, the federal funds for the construction of the roundabout, not including the sanitary sewer, was over $2.8 million and just under $700,000 in state funding. And together, those grants are covering 75% of the construction cost for the roundabouts project and the bike path as well. So with that ordinance, the ordinance for the Synesis contract, Stauffer contract, and the reimbursement to Duke Energy are all recommended for adoption.
Okay, thank you. Okay, back to ordinance 2022-15. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
A motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion? Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Kurt, what level of service, as far as traffic volumes, do you feel that, how far out with traffic volume or time-wise that these will still be useful?
Good question. We are required by OKI to look 20 years out. We have to grow the traffic and make sure that when we're using federal funds in a project like this, that it's at least 20 years out, so, yeah.
I think that's the one question I've had from residents was.
Because it's a single lane roundabout, right?
2 roundabouts so close to each other.
Yeah.
And I says, hey, shoot Kurt. He's
Right.
the one that says,
Yeah.
it's good for 20 years out. Level of service, is there a level of service? Is it ABC now, or do we even have those numbers?
Yeah, they're still used. Those are typically used at a signalized intersection, and each letter is so many seconds of delay time. With roundabouts, it's a little bit different, but generally speaking, it should be letter C, level of service C or better in 20 years. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Mayor?
Yes.
A couple of questions. One, I know the speed limit through there right now is 50. Do you know if there are any plans to change that, or will it remain 50?
We have designed the roundabouts for the 50-mile-an-hour approaches, so we don't have any plans to change it. But our experience in roundabouts is that they do calm traffic, so I wouldn't be shocked if they were lower speeds through this corridor, especially the 800 feet between the two. And once, if that occurs, we could lower the speed limit. It's based on a speed study, so it's actually easier to increase the speed limit than it is to lower it, because you got to get everybody to slow down to lower it. And this may do that. So right now, there's no plans, and it's designed at existing speed limits, but it could in the future.
Okay.
If we wanted to.
Potentially.
Potentially.
Okay, thank you. Second question, on the previous drawing, can we go back to that?
Yeah.
So on the south side of the roundabout, is that a crossing that I'm seeing there that's also going across Mason Morrow Mill Grove as well as on the north side?
Yeah, for the bike path?
Yeah.
Yes, we did it on both sides, just not knowing what potentially could be developed on this property. And it gives people the option. There are certain times of the day where there's a very heavy left turn movement, and so it may be safer to go across the other side. There'd be less traffic coming along that side. So we put it on both sides just to give as much options as possible and for future connections.
Yeah, I know you and I have spoken in the past about crosswalks and roundabouts.
Right.
First, I want to say I think roundabouts are one of the greatest inventions as far as traffic and movement and getting people through an intersection. I mean, they're wonderful. But I have real concerns with especially having 3 crosswalks there. As I mentioned, I lived in England for 3 years. I've been all over Europe, and roundabouts are very prevalent in England. And one thing you don't see is a crosswalk at a roundabout. What they do is they separate them, and the reason that concerns me so much is, especially if on the left side of let's say you're entering in the roundabout, and traffic's coming from the right side, from the left side, so your focus is looking for the cars that are currently in the roundabout, who you have to yield to.
Right.
So if somebody's crossing in that crosswalk on the right side, your focus is away from them. I don't know if there's an option to do something different here, but I have a real concern for safety with a crosswalk right up against a roundabout that by its very nature takes your focus away from a side where pedestrians could be entering that crosswalk.
Yeah. A couple things. You asked previously about the speed limit. No, the speed limit through the roundabout is not 50.
Sure, I understand.
So generally the speed, one thing that they do check with the design of all of our roundabouts is a thing called fastest path. So we took a look at what's the fastest you could go through there without hitting any of the curbs, and how fast can you go. And some of the real geeks, not me or not Steve, some of the designers actually try to drive them as fast as they can to check their calculations on fastest path. So
Job?
yeah, you could try. And so these are going to slow you down. So the speeds of the cars coming at you are slower. They're probably 20 miles an hour. The other thing you'll see is there's kind of this is a newer thing for us, is this Z pattern through this crosswalk. So you'll see that if you were on a bike or if you're walking, that Z through all of these is made to make you stop and kind of look the other direction for the next lane that you're crossing. So the good thing, like Councilmember Bradburn was saying, these are single lane. Single lane both slows down that fastest path, and it gives a smaller approach that helps slow the traffic down. And then it also gives a pedestrian just one lane to cross at a time. And so with any crossing, it's not just on the vehicular driver, it's also on the pedestrian to make sure you make eye contact with the driver and that it's safe to cross. So I think I would say that even though these are 50-mile-an-hour approach, they're going to be as safe as any of the other roundabouts that we have in the city. And I have no concerns with that. I understand you do.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Kurt, now that you mentioned, you call them the Z.
Yeah.
Okay, is that just going to be concrete, or are you?
Yeah, so sorry.
No, go ahead.
Through the splitter island, this area in the splitter island will be concrete, and then the lanes coming to it will be asphalt, and there'll be, what we've been going to also is, instead of the 2 bars going across for a crosswalk, is doing what we call a piano key type pattern. It's more visible from further away to see where the crosswalk is, and so there'll be the piano keys in the asphalt and then concrete with the detection, the domes that you see approaching in the concrete crosswalk itself,
Okay.
and the ramps.
Okay, thanks. Well, I'm glad that you clarified that, because I know in our efforts to make everything look really pretty, we have all this landscaping everywhere, and sometimes landscaping blocks the view, or if you've got, I was thinking if there's going to be landscaping there, people might not want to be stepping on it, so I'm glad to know that's just going to be concrete,
Right.
basically.
Yeah, there'll be, if any, low landscaping in the splitter islands. We do intentionally put landscaping in the center island so that, as Councilmember Hackey said, people look left. We don't want you looking across the roundabout, which a lot of residents call us about that and want us to remove landscaping, but it's intentionally put there so you're not focused on the car coming at you across the roundabout. You're focused on the car coming to the left of you. So there will be landscaping in the Siren Islands of both
Okay.
with the project.
I'm glad you explained that as well, too. I guess I didn't realize that that's the reason for that. I also appreciate the fact that you brought up the federal grants, because oftentimes many of our infrastructure projects are, of course, not fully funded by grants, but a lot of the cost is covered by that, and that's good to know. People might need to know it's not all your taxpayer money paying for everything that we're doing. Does anybody else have anything they want to comment on? Yes.
I'd like to ask a couple questions after Mr. Hackey raised his. I think those are great questions and good for us to discuss. I didn't realize that about the landscaping all that time. I didn't know, but I'm really pleased to see that these are moving forward. And I'm just curious, since we'll have a new bike path area, are there certain standards that you have to follow as far as putting signage up to help motorists recognize that there's a bike path there, or there could be a bike path crossing, or do you have to follow ODOT's rules on that? And has anybody ever invented a light or something that a pedestrian or a bicyclist could press near a roundabout to bring that to the motorist's attention? I have no idea. I just made that up, but I thought of that. But it could end up being more distracting to drivers than helpful, but I just wanted to acknowledge Mr. Hackey's concerns because I think they're good ones.
Yeah, those are options typically out of the gate. We try, so your first question, yeah, we're required to follow the Ohio Manual Traffic Control Devices, which generally follows the federal guide for the most part. To add some kind of a flashing beacon, we have a few of those throughout the city that are in subdivisions where the subdivisions have paid to have those installed. Those are not something that would typically go in and a roundabout or a hawk signal where it's like a traffic signal where it stops traffic, because you have already a yield sign out there, and so you have two different indications. And so what we try to do is make it simpler, and what you'll see is now that our entire area, so, Butler County, Warren County, us have put in more and more roundabouts. The trend has been less signage, because when we first started doing roundabouts, you saw at least 3 or 4 signs before you got to the roundabout. And so you were just kind of inundating the driver with all this, slow down to 20 miles an hour, you have a roundabout coming ahead, splitter island, keep right, right only. And the trend has been lately, less signage is better. You'll see now that they're limited to just a typical one-way, because we still had drivers with just the chevrons that would go left occasionally at a roundabout. And so it seemed to be, there's been tons and tons of studies, as you've seen, tons and tons of roundabouts coming out. And so less signage, more clear signage. And then if the double-edged sword with a flashing beacon is, you could give what we always say is it can give the pedestrian a false sense of security. So they assume that a driver is going to see that light, assume they're going to stop or slow down for them, and they start to walk out, even though maybe the driver missed the light or didn't understand what the light was for. And so while a lot of times it can draw attention to that crosswalk, this false sense of security is why we don't typically put them in out of the gate. It's a tool in the toolbox. If we have a location where there tends to be, a problem or lots of close calls or complaints, we would go out and study it and see if that's a potential solution to draw attention to it. So that's.
Thank you so much for asking or answering those questions. I appreciate that. That's really helpful.
Great questions, man.
Kurt, can I add one thing, and maybe
Yeah.
you want to, with signage, with crosswalks, sometimes once folks become comfortable with them, they stop noticing them, and they become more of a hazard than enhanced safety, because people will then ignore it or create a false sense of safety. And I know sometimes we fall into the habit of, well, we need another sign, or an incident happened there, so we need to create a sign for that. Those maybe have an impact until we become comfortable with them and we stop noticing them, and then we go back to old habits. So I think that speaks to what Kurt's trying to talk about there. You want to take a measured approach.
Right.
If you throw all the tools in at first, well, then you have nothing to, you've already gotten people accustomed to what it looks like, and they'll go back to old habits with nothing to change them.
Is that why everybody goes through red lights? I'm sorry I said that, but I get frustrated with people that go through red lights, but anybody else have anything else they want to discuss? Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Hackey,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn.
Yes.
Okay, item 24, ordinance 2022-16, a motion to read by title only, please.
So moved?
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Jeff?
An ordinance accepting the lowest and best bid for the US 42 and Mason Morrow Millgrove Sanitary Sewer Extension Project from Stauffer Site Services LLC and authorizing the city manager to execute contract documents.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Do you have anything else at Ted Court? Okay, motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any council discussion? Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey.
Yes.
Okay, item 25, ordinance 2022-17, motion to read by title only.
So moved? Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Jeff?
Authorizing a payment to Duke Energy in an amount not to exceed $80,000 for Duke utility relocation work for the US 42 Roundabouts project.
Okay, just checking in. Kurt, anything else? Okay, motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
A motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman.
Yes.
Okay, very good. We're on to item 26, ordinance 2022-18. Motion to read by title only, please.
So moved.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, Jeff?
Declaring certain city equipment and property as surplus property and authorizing the city manager to dispose of said equipment and property.
Okay, Eric?
Yes, Mayor, I always like to say this is a housekeeping measure because it literally is. This is taking property that effectively is now more expensive to keep than to dispose of. Council authorizes that as surplus, and it has no longer a useful value to the city and allows us to dispose of it. Typically, we do that via auction. An internet auction has proven a very efficient way to do that. But the one so this is a kind of a routine ordinance. One interesting thing about this ordinance, one of the items is a fire engine from 1994. This is from the original Mason Volunteer Fire Company that in the split of the Joint Fire District the city received, used for a while and then used it more recently for training. But it continues to, the cost, it's now outdated. Training folks to operate on it is no longer effective. Cost to maintain it operating is no longer effective for the city. But the Warren County Career Center lost the engine they used for training, and this would be a suitable replacement for them and I think, a appropriate use for this because it goes to what is a need, training future firefighters for full-time fire service. So what is proposed here, and if council declares these items surplus, anticipate providing the 1994 Seagrave to the Warren County Career Center to continue their efforts to train future firefighters. It is recommended for adoption.
Okay, thank you. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved?
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Okay, I need a motion to adopt.
So moved?
Second?
Okay, any council discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Spaeth,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula.
Yes.
Okay, we're to item 27, committee reports. Does anybody have a committee report? I know that several of you have been trying to schedule committees for the committees that have been assigned, so I appreciate that, and I guess we'll be, hopefully in the next meeting or two, probably getting some updates from the committees. Okay, item 28, anybody have old and new business?
Mayor?
Yes.
Couple things. One, I would just like to extend a a thank you to staff. Being the newest council member who has never done this before, they took me through all of the different agencies within the city. Everybody did an amazing job except for Eric, of taking me around, showing me the ropes, introducing me to people. They were all very gracious, all did an amazing job, and was a very, very informative, and I appreciate everybody for all that they did. So I just want to make sure that they know how grateful I am for all that they did.
I'll make sure and tell them what you said. My own version.
That's fine. Also, I would just like to put this out there. I would like, I know last year Vice Mayor Nelson had put forward a motion to start allowing our residents to attend meetings via Zoom. I would like to explore that again. I think it's important that that we make these meetings as accessible as possible. We've got a lot of single parents out there. We've got people that have busy schedules, but that would like an opportunity to participate in these meetings. So I'm not making a motion tonight, but I would like to explore that and the possibility of council members as well being able to Zoom into meetings if for some reason we're not able to be here. And I would like to just look into what that would look like and what that would take. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Eric, would that be something that we would need to discuss as a council in a public meeting, or is that just something that you guys would come up with in an ordinance? I mean, what's the process for that?
There's two pieces there. I think if council, as a general rule for typical meetings, would like to allow Zoom access, remote participation from the public, I think if you wanted to pass a motion, we could accommodate that. The clearest way would be to amend your rules, which would require legislation. I think the remote participation by council members is a different topic that, and Jeff may want to speak to that more definitively. You would not be able to do on your own via motion or even ordinance at this point in time. You'd need more clarity from the state or more fundamental changes. So one is easily accomplished in the interim or by some clarification of the rules. The other, we'd have some higher powers need to work through.
Okay, thank you. So as far as the first part of that, is that something that we want to go ahead and consider at maybe one of the next meetings?
I think Jeff could correct, but if, we've done it before, I don't see anything inhibiting that. And if you want as a general rule to provide that, I'd pass a motion and staff can do that. I hesitate to kind of mandate it or require it because that would probably, that could inhibit some meetings because we rely on, there's several other pieces to it as far as working with ICRC, the technology itself, but as a general rule, we've done it before, we can do it again.
Well, just for clarity for my sake, since I wasn't on council, I know that was being done during COVID, correct? And why did it stop? Just because?
Mayor, can I speak to you on this?
That's fine, you can go ahead. I'm curious because I don't know.
Right. So Governor DeWine allowed for remoting into meetings, and that actually became law up until I believe it was July of 2021 when it expired. I did propose through an ordinance. We had two different ordinances that were presented. One was to allow for the public to continue to call in via, some kind of a remote system in order to talk to us and take part in the in the recognition of visitors. And that failed with the last council. It didn't get the votes. I also had another ordinance that was presented that would allow council members to do it in the event that they needed to. And that failed as well. We are allowed to do it via ordinance. We are allowed to pass that, and through our charter, it gives us the ability to have that option. So we could pull those ordinances back that failed and re-vote on them if you would like. or if somebody would like to.
But are you saying that has to be a charter amendment?
No, I'm sorry, not a charter amendment.
Oh,
Well, for council members to participate remotely, that would require a charter amendment or a change in the state law.
Okay, yeah, charter, yeah.
But as far as the public participating, that could be done, it could be done by motion, as Eric said, or it could be, I think what we had prepared last time was an ordinance to amend your council rules to allow for remote participation for the public. But for council members, it would either take a change in the state law, or that would have to be done by charter amendment.
okay.
And if I can just say one more thing, I believe that Senator Wilson has a bill out there to change that so that we can remote in. But I haven't heard anything on it, so I'm not sure if it's stalled or where it is, but I will make sure to do some research on it and get back to you on the next meeting to give you an update on where that bill stands.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have anything else they want to add for old and new business? Okay. Let's move to item 29, recognition of visitors. Anybody else want to get back up and speak this evening?
Still Al Lertzman, 7343 Red Oak Court, Mason. Going back to Mr. Hackey's concerns about the roundabouts, I've got relatives that live in Madison, Wisconsin. That city, you can get all over the place on your bike. And what I've noticed when I'm out there is that when they get a bike path to a large roundabout or to a complicated intersection, the bike path typically goes under. They tunnel. And it might not be a long tunnel, but it's a short, even if it's short, thereby separating it and eliminating the kind of concerns, that were being expressed here. I know it's probably too late for these projects because they're already bid out and everything, but in the future, if there are this kind of an intersection where new bike paths are going in, maybe something to think about.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to get up and add anything? Okay, I think we're to item 30, which is I need a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
All right, thank you all very much. Have a good evening.